we're more than just a molder. So within our industry, there are some fantastic molders out there, obviously competitors, but yet friends of ours. And that's what they do. They mold parts. There's actually in our industry, there's a few of us that compound material. And but that's all they do. They just compound material and then ship it to a molder. Also within our business, it's very important, especially from a OEM standpoint, to be able to provide to the customer perhaps some design technology, design expertise, whether it's designing a tool, a part, and looking at the overall application and making sure that we're maximizing the design for manufacturing as well as for the end-use application. So what that means is we actually have a team of engineers that work on that aspect of from a design standpoint. The other big piece of, especially from a material standpoint, and the material in our industry, the material is really the heart of the product. And so when you look at from a compounding standpoint and you go one step in the value chain, there's a formulation standpoint. So we need to understand from the customer what that end-use application looks like. What are some of the attributes that's trying to be obtained, through that. So it really gets down to the material technology, and we actually have formulators as well. So, I talked about the design team. These are mechanical engineers, program managers, tool and design experts that really work on that side of the, what's it going to look like, both from a feel standpoint, an aesthetic standpoint, and what's it going to look like from a manufacturing standpoint. But, again, the other important part then is the material. And so we have the formulation and the formulators. So we have a team of materials engineering group that looks at all of that and is able then to bring in that expertise and serve as consultants both to the customer and internally with that. So we look at design, formulate, compound, and we've already talked about molding, and then you get into the finishing aspects. And again, it's just another part of the value added and the value chain that we bring to our customers in finishing. And that, what do I mean by finishing? That could be CNC finishing. So a lot of our electrical and industrial customers, from after molding does require some additional processing, and we can do that through a CNC finishing capability that we have. It could be metallizing. So many of us know that in the kitchen, we've seen over the last 8 to 10 years increased use of stainless steel, for example, in the kitchen. And what that, for us, what that means is we can actually apply a metal finish to our parts and through a PVD process. And so we can then enable our parts to look just like metal with that. Another finishing could be a value-added assembly, so where we're taking multiple components, putting them together, and then shipping them to our OEM so that it makes their assembly process and makes their lives easier at the manufacturing plant. A great example would be a handle and a vent trim. Instead of shipping those separately to the customer, we could actually assemble those in-house during the curing process or the manufacturing process of those individual parts. And so that the customer now, rather than having two different components to keep up with in their inventory, they now have one full assembly that they can put on there. So, the question of the one source solutions provider and what that means is really that. We can bring all of that to the customer under one roof or under one umbrella, if you will, of design, formulate, compound, mold, and finish. And we do feel like that there's incredible value of having that one source solutions model available to customers. Rather than bringing in multiple parties and A lot of times there can be finger pointing when something goes wrong, and so in this particular case, it does help to have what we call full ownership in that one source solutions provider. Beyond that, there's also a cost and quality benefit to the customer as well. So certainly if we're manufacturing our own raw material, and then within a few yards in many, many cases where we're actually then molding that part, that really helps to keep the cost down. And even if we're having to ship, for example, down to our Virginia plant to be manufactured, the collaboration that goes on between the plants with intercompany and making sure that that we're meeting the needs of our customers is dramatic. So it really does, rather than having multiple companies and multiple people involved, in this particular case, it's the Mar-Bal umbrella, the Mar-Bal ownership, the Mar-Bal team, culture, and family that you're working with as a customer to bring that to bear.